The champagne glass shattered against marble as Lena Brooks stood frozen in the ballroom, staring at the man on stage. The driver, who'd listened to her cry about unpaid bills for 2 weeks straight, was being introduced as Ethan Cole, billionaire CEO, one of the richest men in America. Her chest tightened. Every vulnerable confession she'd whispered in that car, every moment she'd treated him like just another working-class guy, all of it replayed in her mind like a cruel joke. He'd been testing her, watching her, and she'd had no idea. But before we get there, let me tell you how a poor waitress and a secret billionaire ended up in the same car on a freezing Chicago night, and why what happened between them would change everything. Stick around until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The wind off Lake Michigan cut through Chicago's downtown streets like broken glass. It was the kind of cold that made your bones ache, the kind that reminded you winter didn't care if you had a warm place to sleep or not. Lena Brooks had exactly $47 in her bank account and 3 days until rent was due. She stood outside the glass tower on West Monroe Street at 11:43 p.m., her feet screaming inside cheap black heels she'd bought at a discount store 2 years ago. The sole on the left one had split last month. She'd glued it back together twice already. Her catering uniform, black pants and a white button-down that never looked quite clean no matter how many times she washed it, smelled like salmon and champagne from the corporate event she'd just worked. The November air bit at her face as she pulled out her phone. Dead. Of course it was dead. She'd forgotten to charge it again because the outlet in her apartment was broken and her landlord kept promising to fix it but never did. Lena closed her eyes and did the math in her head for the 100th time that day. $47. Rent was $800. Her mom's medication was another $60. Bus fare for the week, $20. Groceries. She couldn't think about groceries right now. The event coordinator had mentioned something about a shuttle for staff, but Lena had been moving dirty plates in the kitchen when they made the announcement. By the time she'd finished cleaning and changed out of the catering company's official uniform jacket, the lobby was empty except for security guards who looked at her like she might steal something. The night bus stopped running at 11:30. She'd missed it by 13 minutes. Lena looked down the street toward the L station. It was 12 blocks away. In these heels, in this cold, after being on her feet for 9 hours straight, those 12 blocks might as well have been 12 miles. She was about to start walking anyway when she noticed the car. A black sedan, expensive looking but not flashy, idling at the curb about 30 feet away. The kind of car the catering company sometimes hired to drive VIP staff to events across the city. The driver stood beside it, hands in his pockets, looking at his phone. Lena hesitated. She wasn't VIP staff. She was barely staff at all. Just a contracted worker the company called when they needed extra hands for big events. But the coordinator had mentioned drivers, hadn't she? Maybe this one was waiting for stragglers. She walked toward the car, each step a small negotiation with the pain in her feet. The driver looked up as she approached. He was younger than she expected, maybe early 30s, with dark hair and the kind of face that seemed designed to not be noticed. Not ugly, not handsome, just regular. He wore dark jeans and a jacket that looked warm but not expensive. His eyes were gray, or maybe blue, hard to tell under the streetlights. "Excuse me," Lena said, hating how small her voice sounded. "Are you here for the catering staff? They said there might be drivers." She trailed off because she could hear how desperate she sounded, and she hated it. The man looked at her for a long moment. He didn't smile, didn't frown, just looked. "Where do you need to go?" he asked. His voice was quiet, neutral. No accent she could place. "South Side," Lena said, "near Bronzeville. But if you're not supposed to, if I'm not on your list or whatever, it's fine. I can walk to the L." The man glanced down the street in the direction she'd been looking, then back at her. "Get in," he said. He opened the back door. Lena froze. Something about it felt wrong, or maybe too easy. Or maybe she'd just learned not to trust things that seemed helpful because they usually weren't. "I don't want to get you in trouble," she said. "If I'm not supposed to—" "You'll freeze before you make it to the station in those shoes," the man said. It wasn't mean, just factual. He was still holding the door open. "Get in." Lena looked at her reflection in the car's tinted window. She looked exactly like what she was. A 30-year-old woman who'd been pretty once, before life had worn her down. Dark circles under brown eyes that used to be bright. Hair pulled back in a ponytail because she couldn't afford to get it cut. Lipstick she'd applied 12 hours ago now faded to nothing. She got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and something else, something clean she couldn't identify. Not air freshener, just clean. The seats were heated. Lena almost moaned when the warmth hit her back. The driver got in the front seat and pulled into traffic without asking for her exact address. Maybe he was going to ask once they were moving. Maybe he had GPS. Lena didn't know how these things worked. She'd never been in a car this nice before. "Thank you," she said after a few blocks of silence. "Really, I know you probably have other people to pick up, and I'm probably making you late, and I'm sorry about that. The bus stopped running and my phone died, and..." "It's fine," the driver said. His eyes met hers in the rearview mirror for a second, then back to the road. Lena settled back against the warm leather and tried not to think about how pathetic she must look. Just another broke woman who couldn't get her life together, grateful for charity from strangers. They drove in silence for a while. The city slid past the windows, bright downtown giving way to darker neighborhoods, glass towers becoming brick buildings, clean streets becoming cracked pavement. The driver didn't put on music, didn't make small talk, just drove. Lena found herself studying the back of his head. Dark hair, a little too long, broad shoulders under the jacket, hands on the steering wheel that looked like they'd done real work at some point, not the soft hands of guys who spent all day at computers. "I'm Lana," she said finally, because the silence was starting to feel heavy. "Lena Brooks." "Ethan," the driver said. Just the first name. No last name. That felt right somehow, like they existed in a space where last names didn't matter because they'd never see each other again after tonight. "How long have you been driving for the catering company?" Lena asked. There was a pause, so brief she almost missed it. "Not long," Ethan said. "It's decent money, right? Better than waiting tables?" "I wouldn't know," Ethan said. "I've never waited tables." "Lucky you," Lena said, and she tried to keep the bitterness out of her voice but didn't quite manage it. "I've been doing it for 8 years, catering on the side when I can get the work. It's not exactly a career plan, but bills don't pay themselves." She should stop talking. She always did this when she was nervous, filled silence with words she'd regret later. But something about the quiet car, and the warm seats, and the fact that she'd probably never see this man again, made her keep going. "My mom needs medication," Lena heard herself say, "for her heart. Insurance won't cover all of it. I keep thinking if I just work enough shifts, I'll get ahead. But I never do. There's always something. Rent goes up, or the hot water heater breaks, or my shoes fall apart, and I need new ones, but I can't afford good ones, so I buy cheap ones that fall apart in 6 months, and then I'm back where I started." She pressed her lips together. "Stop talking, Lena." But Ethan didn't tell her to shut up, didn't change the subject, just kept driving. "Where's your father?" he asked after a moment. "Dead," Lena said. "Heart attack when I was 19, no life insurance. Mom couldn't work after that. Her own heart problems got worse from the stress. So it's been me taking care of both of us since then." "That's a lot for one person," Ethan said quietly. "Yeah, well." Lena looked out the window at the passing streetlights. "Life doesn't care what's a lot. You just do what you have to do." They were in Bronzeville now, getting close to her building. Lena recognized the corner store where she sometimes bought lottery tickets she knew she'd never win, the bus stop where she waited every morning at 6 a.m. to get to her day shift at the diner. "It's the next block," she said, "the brick building with the blue door. You can just drop me at the corner if that's easier." Ethan pulled up directly in front of her building. Lena reached for the door handle, then stopped. "I really appreciate this," she said. "You probably saved me from frostbite or worse. If there's any way I can pay you back. I know you were probably supposed to get paid by the company for this ride, and if I screwed that up for you by not being on the official list, I can try to..." "Don't worry about it," Ethan said. He was looking at her in the rearview mirror again, those gray-blue eyes that gave nothing away. "Still," Lena said. "Thank you." She got out of the car before she could embarrass herself any further. The cold hit her like a slap after the warmth of the heated seats. She turned to wave, but the car was already pulling away, taillights disappearing down the dark street. Lena climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, her feet throbbing with each step. Inside, her mother was asleep in the bedroom they shared. Lena could hear her labored breathing through the thin wall. She sat down on the lumpy couch that served as her bed and pulled off her ruined heels. Tomorrow she'd work the breakfast shift at the diner, then she had a catering gig tomorrow night at some hotel downtown. 18 hours on her feet. She'd need to tape up the shoes, maybe put cardboard in the soles to cover the holes. Lena lay back and stared at the water-stained ceiling. She thought about the quiet driver who'd picked her up without asking questions, the warm car, the way he'd listened when she talked about her life without making her feel stupid for struggling. She'd probably never see him again. That was fine. That was normal. People like her didn't get fairy tale endings. They got Tuesday morning shifts and broken heels and $47 in the bank. Lena closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Upset. 3 days later, Lena was back at the same building on West Monroe Street. Different event, same job. Carrying trays of food to people who wouldn't remember her face 5 minutes after she handed them an appetizer. Smiling until her cheeks hurt, staying invisible. The event ended at 11:30 p.m. Again. And again, the staff shuttle had already left. Lena stood in the lobby, trying to decide if she should spend money on a rideshare she couldn't afford or risk the walk to the L station, when someone spoke behind her. "Need a ride?" She turned around. Ethan stood there in the same jacket, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Lena's heart did something complicated in her chest. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Waiting," Ethan said. "For me?" "The event just ended. Figured you might need a ride again." Lena stared at him. "How did you know I'd be working tonight?" Something flickered across Ethan's face, too quick to read. "Lucky guess," he said. "Car's outside." This time, Lena didn't hesitate. She followed him out to the black sedan and got in the back seat like it was the most natural thing in the world. The heated seats felt like coming home. They pulled into traffic. Lena waited for him to say something, but he didn't, just drove. "You're going to think I'm using you," she said finally, "like I'm taking advantage of your kindness or whatever. I'm not trying to do that. I can find another way home if this is weird." "Is it weird?" Ethan asked. "I don't know," Lena admitted. "I don't usually have people show up to give me rides. Actually, I don't ever have people show up to give me rides. So yeah, maybe it's a little weird." "Do you want me to stop coming?" Ethan asked. Lena opened her mouth to say yes, because that would be the smart thing, the safe thing. But what came out was no. The corner of Ethan's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "Then I'll keep coming," he said. They drove through the city. Lena watched the buildings pass and tried to figure out what was happening. This wasn't normal. Drivers didn't show up to give the same waitress rides home multiple times. There had to be a catch. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Go ahead." "Why are you doing this?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe I like the company," he said finally. "I barely talk." "That's not true. Last time you told me about your mother's heart medication and your broken shoes and how life doesn't care what's too much for one person." Lena felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have—" "Don't apologize," Ethan said. "Most people only talk about themselves when they think it'll impress someone. You talk like you're just trying to figure it out. I find that—" He paused. "You find it what?" Lena asked. "Honest," Ethan said. They stopped at a red light. A group of drunk guys stumbled past the car, laughing. The city was alive around them, but inside the car it felt quiet, separate. "I got my paycheck today," Lena said. She didn't know why she was telling him this. $243 for 32 hours of work. That's after taxes. I did the math on the bus this morning. If I work every shift they offer me for the next 6 months, and if I don't eat anything except ramen, and if nothing breaks or goes wrong, I might be able to save enough to move my mom to a better apartment. One where the heat actually works and the pipes don't freeze. And I don't have to put buckets under the leak in the bathroom ceiling when it rains. That's the dream? Ethan asked quietly. An apartment where things work? That's the dream, Lena confirmed. Pathetic, right? Most people dream about vacations or new cars or falling in love. I dream about functional plumbing. It's not pathetic, Ethan said. It's practical. Practical is just another word for giving up, Lena said. The light turned green. They drove. Do you ever dream about anything impractical? Ethan asked. Lena laughed, and it came out more bitter than she meant it to. You want to know what I dream about? Really? Yes. I dream about walking into a grocery store and not having to check my bank account first. I dream about buying my mom the name brand heart medication instead of the generic that works half as well. I dream about wearing shoes that don't have holes in them. I dream about... She stopped herself. About what? Ethan asked. About being visible, Lena said quietly. About mattering to someone. About being more than just furniture, a waitress, a nobody. She stared out the window, embarrassed. Why couldn't she keep her mouth shut around this man? You're not furniture, Ethan said. You barely know me. I know you work 2 jobs to take care of your sick mother. I know you apologize for things that aren't your fault. I know you carry yourself like you're afraid of taking up too much space in the world. Lena looked at his reflection in the rearview mirror. How do you see all that? She asked. I pay attention, Ethan said simply. They were getting close to her building now. Lena felt a strange reluctance for the ride to end. In this car with this quiet stranger, she could pretend for a few minutes that she was someone else, someone worth paying attention to. Same time Friday? Ethan asked as he pulled up to her building. Lena blinked. I have another catering shift Friday. How did you... Lucky guess, Ethan said again. This time Lena caught it, the slight hesitation before he answered, like he was choosing his words carefully. Who are you? She asked. Just a driver, Ethan said. No, Lena said slowly. You're not. Their eyes met in the rear-view mirror. For a moment, Lena thought he might tell her the truth, whatever it was, but then he looked away. Good night, Lena, he said. She got out of the car and stood on the sidewalk, watching him drive away. Something was happening here, something she didn't understand. But for the first time in years, Lena found herself looking forward to Friday. Friday came. Ethan was waiting outside the building when the event ended, leaning against the black sedan like he'd been there all along. This time, Lena got in the front seat. Bold choice, Ethan said. I'm tired of talking to the back of your head, Lena said. If we're going to do this weird thing where you inexplicably show up to drive me home, I'd like to at least see your face while we talk. Fair enough, Ethan said. Up close, he was better looking than she'd thought. Not magazine handsome, but real. The kind of face that got more interesting the longer you looked at it. There was a scar above his left eyebrow, barely visible. His hands on the steering wheel were strong, capable. What happened? Lena asked, pointing to the scar. Fell off a bike when I was 7, Ethan said. Needed 12 stitches. Did you cry? Like a baby, Ethan said, and this time he actually smiled. Small, but real. Lena smiled back. They drove. The city lights painted patterns across the windshield. The radio was off, but the silence didn't feel empty anymore. Tell me something true, Lena said. Ethan glanced at her. What do you mean? Something real. Something you don't usually tell people. We keep having these conversations where I spill my entire pathetic life story and you just listen. I want to know something about you. Ethan was quiet for so long Lena thought he wouldn't answer. I'm raising my daughter alone, he said finally. Her mother died 4 years ago. Cancer. She was 31. Lena felt her breath catch. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Don't be, Ethan said, but his voice had changed, gotten quieter, more careful. It was a long time ago. How old is your daughter? 6. Her name is Sophie. Is she... Lena hesitated. Is she okay? I mean, losing her mom so young. She's resilient, Ethan said. Kids are. She doesn't remember her mother much anymore. Sometimes I don't know if that's better or worse. They stopped at a light. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The hardest part, he said, is knowing I can give her everything except the one thing she needs most. I can't bring her mother back. I can't fix that. Lena reached out without thinking and touched his arm, just briefly. A connection. You're there, she said. That's not nothing. Ethan looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Thank you, he said. The light turned green. Lena pulled her hand back, suddenly self-conscious. They drove the rest of the way in silence, but it felt different now, warmer, like something had shifted between them. When they reached her building, Lena didn't get out right away. Can I ask you something else? She said. Always. Why do you really keep showing up? And don't say it's because you like the company or you're bored or whatever. I need to know the real reason. Ethan turned to face her fully. Because when I talk to you, he said slowly, I remember what it's like to be around someone who's still figuring out how to survive instead of just existing. Everyone I know has already won or already given up. You're still fighting. That's... He paused, searching for words. That's what? Lena asked. Rare, Ethan said. Lena's heart was doing that complicated thing again. I should go, she said. See you next week? Ethan asked. Yeah, Lena said. Next week. Over the following weeks, the rides became routine. Every time Lena worked a catering shift downtown, Ethan was there when it ended. They talked about everything and nothing. Lena's childhood in a different part of Chicago before her father died and money got tight. Ethan's daughter and the complicated joy of raising her alone. Movies they'd both seen. Books Lena wanted to read but couldn't afford. The weather, the city, life. Lena started looking forward to those drives more than she wanted to admit. And slowly, carefully, she started to notice things. The way Ethan's jacket was always perfectly fitted, not off the rack like she'd first thought. The watch he wore. She'd Googled it one day at the library and nearly choked when she saw the price. The fact that he never seemed stressed about money, never mentioned bills or rent or any of the thousand small financial anxieties that consumed Lena's every waking moment. But she didn't ask, because asking meant potentially shattering whatever this was, and Lena wasn't ready to lose it yet. One rainy Tuesday in late November, everything changed. Lena's shift had been brutal. The event had run 3 hours overtime, and she'd been stiffed on the promised overtime pay. Her feet were bleeding inside her shoes. She'd worn through the cardboard inserts and hadn't had time to replace them. When she finally stumbled out of the building at 1 a.m., she was crying and trying to hide it. Ethan took one look at her face and opened the car door without a word. Lena collapsed into the passenger seat. Bad night, he asked quietly. They didn't pay me, Lena said, and the words came out choked. 3 extra hours, and they said there was a processing error, and I'll get the money next month, but my rent is due Friday, and I'm short $200, and I can't. She pressed her hands against her face, trying to stop the tears, but they kept coming. Years of exhaustion and fear and barely holding it together all came pouring out in the front seat of Ethan's car, while rain hammered against the windows. I'm sorry, she gasped. I'm sorry, I'm not... Hey, Ethan said gently. It's okay. It's not okay, Lena said. Nothing's okay. I work so hard and it's never enough. I can't save money. I can't get ahead. I'm drowning and nobody cares and I'm so tired of pretending I'm fine when I'm not fine. I'm so far from fine, I can't even see fine anymore. She felt Ethan's hand on her shoulder, warm and steady. Breathe, he said. Just breathe for a second. Lena tried. Failed. Tried again. Slowly, her breathing steadied. The tears stopped. She wiped her face with her sleeve and felt humiliation crash over her. God, I'm a mess, she said. I'm sorry you had to see that. Don't apologize for being human, Ethan said. He reached into the back seat and pulled out a bottle of water, handed it to her. Lena drank, grateful. $200, Ethan said quietly. That's what you're short? I'll figure it out, Lena said quickly. I didn't mean to. I know you weren't asking, Ethan said, but I'm offering. Lena's head snapped up. No, absolutely not. Why not? Because I don't take money from people. We barely know each other and I can't just... It's $200, Lena. It won't change my life, but it might change yours. That's not the point, Lena said stubbornly. The point is I don't want to be someone's charity case. I've spent my whole life being looked down on by people with money, and I can't. She stopped because her voice was rising again, getting shaky. Ethan was quiet for a moment. What if it's not charity? He said. What if it's just one person helping another person because they can? There's always a catch, Lena said. In my experience, when people with money offer to help, they want something back, always. What do you think I want? Ethan asked. Lena looked at him, really looked. His gray-blue eyes were steady, open, waiting for her answer. I don't know, she admitted. That's what scares me. I don't want anything, Ethan said. I just don't like watching you suffer when I have the ability to help. You don't know me, Lena said, but her resistance was weakening. I know enough, Ethan said. Lena stared down at her hands. $200, rent paid, 1 month without the sick fear of eviction, 1 month to breathe. If I say yes, she said slowly, it's a loan. I pay you back, every penny. Fine, Ethan said. I'm serious. I believe you. Lena took a shaky breath. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Ethan pulled out his wallet and counted out cash. $200 in 20s. He handed it to Lena like it was nothing, like he hadn't just handed her survival. Thank you, Lena said again, her voice barely a whisper. You don't know what this means. I think I do, Ethan said quietly. They sat in the rain-dark car, and something unspoken settled between them. Something bigger than money, more complicated than kindness. Lena folded the bills carefully and put them in her pocket. I'm going to pay you back, she said. I know, Ethan said, but they both knew she probably wouldn't be able to. Not for a long time. Not unless something changed. That night, lying on her lumpy couch bed, Lena thought about Ethan's hands counting out 20s like they were nothing. The expensive watch, the perfect jacket, the car that probably cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. Just a driver, he'd said. Lena was starting to suspect that was a lie. But she was also starting to suspect she didn't care. The $200 bought Lena exactly 18 days of breathing room before the next crisis hit. Her mother's prescription ran out on a Wednesday. The pharmacy tech, a tired woman with gray roots showing through bad dye job, handed Lena a slip of paper with a number on it that made her stomach drop. $340, the tech said. Insurance rejected the claim. You'll need to pay out of pocket or wait while we file an appeal, which could take 3 to 6 weeks. She can't wait 6 weeks, Lena said, trying to keep her voice steady. She needs this medication. Her doctor said, I understand, hun, but that's what it costs without insurance. Lena stood at the counter, that slip of paper burning in her hand while other customers shuffled impatiently behind her. $340. She had $87 in her account after paying rent. I'll come back, she said. At home, her mother sat in the worn armchair by the window, the one with the spring poking through that they kept meaning to fix. She looked smaller every day, her skin the color of old newspapers. Did you get my pills? She asked. They're processing the refill, Lena lied. Should be ready tomorrow. Her mother nodded, too tired to question it. She'd been out of the medication for 2 days already. By tomorrow, Lena would need to tell her the truth. By the day after, her mother's hands would start shaking. By the end of the week, her heart would start doing that irregular flutter thing that had sent her to the ER twice last year. Lena made her mother soup from a can and helped her to bed. Then she sat on the couch and stared at her phone, at Ethan's number that he'd given her 3 weeks ago just in case. She typed out a message, deleted it, typed another one. Deleted that too. She couldn't ask him for more money. She'd barely started paying back the first loan, $20 here, $30 there, when she could manage it. Asking for more would make her exactly what she was afraid of being, a user, someone who took advantage of kindness. But her mother needed those pills. Lena's fingers moved before her brain could stop them. I know I already owe you money, but my mom's medication. Insurance won't cover it. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent. She hit send before she could delete it. The 3 dots appeared almost immediately. How much do you need? Lena closed her eyes, hated herself a little bit more. $340. I'll pay you back. I promise I'll pay you back. Stop promising. What pharmacy? She gave him the address. 20 minutes later, her phone rang. It's paid for, Ethan said without preamble. They'll have it ready in an hour. Lena couldn't speak for a moment. Her throat had closed up. Lena, you there? Why are you doing this? She whispered. Because your mother needs medication and you need help, Ethan said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. I don't understand you, Lena said. I don't understand why you care. There was a long pause. Maybe I'm starting to care too much, Ethan said quietly. Does that scare you? Yes, Lena admitted. Does it scare you enough to want me to stop? Lena thought about her mother in the next room, struggling to breathe. She thought about Ethan's calm voice and the way he showed up and the warmth of his car. She thought about how long it had been since anyone had cared whether she survived or drowned. "No," she said. "Good," Ethan said. "I'll pick you up Friday after your shift." He hung up before she could thank him again. Lena picked up the medication an hour later. Walking home with the white paper bag, she felt the weight of it, not just the physical weight, but what it represented. Debt, dependence, the slow erosion of her independence that she'd fought so hard to maintain. But her mother would be okay for another month. Sometimes survival required swallowing your pride. Friday came. Ethan was waiting, as always. Lena got in the passenger seat and sat there for a moment without speaking. The car smelled like coffee. There were 2 cups in the holders. "Black, no sugar, right?" Ethan said. "How did you know?" "You mentioned it once, 3 weeks ago. You said people who put sugar in coffee are lying to themselves about liking coffee." Lena picked up the cup, stunned that he'd remembered such a throwaway comment. "Thank you," she said. "For the coffee, for the medication, for everything." "You're going to wear out those words," Ethan said, pulling into traffic. "What words?" "Thank you. If you keep saying it for every little thing, it'll stop meaning anything." "Paying for my mother's medication isn't a little thing," Lena said. "To you it's not," Ethan said. "To me it's just money." "Must be nice," Lena said, and she couldn't quite keep the edge out of her voice. "Having so much money that $340 is just nothing." Ethan glanced at her. "You're angry." "I'm not angry." "You sound angry." Lena took a sip of coffee, buying herself time. "I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at myself for needing help. And I'm angry at the world for being set up so that people like you have money to throw around, while people like me can't afford to keep our parents alive. But mostly I'm just tired, so tired of struggling." "I know," Ethan said quietly. "Do you?" Lena turned to face him. "Do you really know what it's like? Because from where I'm sitting, you seem pretty comfortable. Nice car, expensive watch, enough disposable income to pay a stranger's bills without blinking. That doesn't sound like someone who knows what struggling means." Ethan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "You're right," he said. "I don't know what it's like to be in your position. I haven't for a long time." "But you did once?" Lena asked, catching the implication. "Everyone comes from somewhere," Ethan said, which wasn't really an answer. They drove in silence for a while. Lena watched the city slide past and felt bad for snapping at him. He was helping her. He didn't have to, and he was. And here she was, being ungrateful. "I'm sorry," she said. "That was unfair. You're being generous, and I'm being a jerk about it." "You're being honest," Ethan said. "I prefer that to false gratitude." "It's not false," Lena said. "I am grateful. I just also feel like I'm drowning, and you're the only person who's noticed, and I don't know what to do with that." "You could just let me help," Ethan suggested. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because," Lena said, struggling for words, "because people don't just help for no reason. In my experience, when someone gives you something, they expect something back eventually, and I need to know what you're expecting before I get in too deep." Ethan pulled the car over. They were on a quiet street in a neighborhood Lena didn't recognize, tree-lined and peaceful. He turned to face her fully. "I don't expect anything," he said, looking directly into her eyes. "I help because I can, and because watching you struggle when I have the means to make it easier feels wrong. That's it. No ulterior motive, no strings attached." "Everyone has motives," Lena said. "Fine," Ethan said. "You want to know my motive? Here it is. Talking to you reminds me that there are still people in the world who haven't been corrupted by money, who still care about things that matter, who still fight even when the odds are impossible. Being around you makes me feel less cynical about humanity. Is that selfish enough for you?" Lena stared at him. "That's the nicest selfish motive I've ever heard." "I'm a complicated person," Ethan said dryly. Something in Lena's chest loosened. "Okay. Okay. Okay. I'll try to stop being suspicious of your help. I'll try to just accept it, but I'm still paying you back." "I wouldn't expect anything less," Ethan said. He pulled back into traffic. Lena settled back in her seat, coffee warming her hands. "Can I ask you something?" she said after a few minutes. "Always." "What do you do?" "For work, I mean." You said you're not really a driver, and you've got enough money to just hand out hundreds of dollars, like they're nothing. So what's your actual job? Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I work in technology, he said carefully. Like IT? Computers? Something like that? Must pay well. It does. Lena waited for him to elaborate, but he didn't, just drove, his face giving nothing away. You're doing it again, she said. Doing what? Deflecting. Every time I ask about your life, you give me these vague non-answers and change the subject. Maybe my life is boring, Ethan said. Boring rich people don't spend their free time driving waitresses around Chicago, Lena said. Come on, give me something real. I've told you everything about my pathetic existence. The least you can do is tell me one honest thing about yours. Ethan was quiet for so long Lena thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I'm lonely, he said. I have a daughter I love more than anything, but she's 6. Our conversations are about cartoons and whether vegetables are trying to kill her. I have colleagues, but every interaction is transactional. I have money, but it doesn't buy the kind of connection I actually want. And then I met you, and you talked to me like I was just a person, and I... He stopped himself. You what? Lena asked softly. I didn't want to lose that, Ethan finished, so I kept showing up. Lena felt something shift in her chest. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone more arrogant, I guess. Rich tech guys usually are, but you're just sad, lonely, like me. Maybe that's why this works, Ethan said. What works? This, us, whatever this is. Lena didn't have an answer for that. They pulled up to her building. Lena didn't get out right away. Do you want to come up? She asked, and then immediately regretted it, because what was she thinking? Inviting him into her shitty apartment with its water stains and broken heater and... Yes, Ethan said. Lena blinked. Really? Unless you're rescinding the invitation. No, I just... Okay, but I'm warning you, it's not nice. It's actually pretty depressing. I'll survive, Ethan said. They climbed the 3 flights of stairs, Lena's cheeks burning with embarrassment at every stain on the carpet, every crack in the walls. This was a mistake. He was going to see how she really lived and realize she was a charity case, and this is it, she said, unlocking the door to the tiny one-bedroom. Welcome to poverty. Ethan stepped inside and looked around. The apartment was small enough to see everything from the doorway. The couch bed where Lena slept, the kitchenette with its ancient appliances, the bedroom door slightly ajar where her mother was sleeping. You sleep on the couch, Ethan said. It wasn't a question. Mom needs the bedroom, Lena said defensively. It's not a big deal. Ethan walked over to the window, looked out at the view of the alley and the building across the way. How long have you lived here? He asked. 8 years, since Dad died. And you've been taking care of your mother the whole time. Someone has to. Ethan turned to face her. You're 29 years old, Lena. You should be living your life, not sacrificing everything for... Don't, Lena said sharply. Don't tell me I'm sacrificing too much. She's my mother. This is what you do for family. Even when it's destroying you? I'm not being destroyed. I'm just tired. You're drowning, Ethan said quietly. And you're so used to it, you don't even realize it anymore. Lena felt tears prick at her eyes. What am I supposed to do? Abandon her? Let her die because I want to live my own life? What kind of person does that? A person who acknowledges they can't save everyone, including themselves, Ethan said. Easy for you to say, Lena shot back. You have money. You have options. I have this. She gestured around the apartment. This is all I have. This and my mother and my stupid jobs that barely pay enough to keep us fed. So don't stand in my shitty apartment and tell me I should be living differently when you have no idea what it's like to have no choices. Ethan crossed the small space between them. You're right, he said. I'm sorry. That was out of line. Lena wiped at her eyes angrily. I didn't invite you up here so you could tell me my life is depressing. Why did you invite me up? Lena looked at him, at his gray-blue eyes that saw too much, at his expensive jacket in her cheap apartment, at the impossible distance between their worlds. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe because I'm tired of pretending everything's fine. Maybe because you're the only person who seems to actually see me. Maybe because I'm lonely, too. Ethan reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so gentle, so unexpected, that Lena froze. I should go, he said quietly, before I do something I shouldn't. Like what? Like kiss you, Ethan said. Lena's heart stopped. Would that be so terrible? She asked. Yes, Ethan said, because you owe me money, and you're vulnerable, and the power dynamic here is completely wrong. It would be taking advantage. What if I don't care about the power dynamic? You should, Ethan said. You should care that I have all the power and you have none. You should care that you might feel obligated because of the money. You should care that this could ruin what we have. And what do we have? Lena asked. I don't know yet, Ethan said, but I don't want to destroy it by moving too fast. He stepped back, putting distance between them. I'll see you next week, he said. Then he left. Lena stood in her empty apartment, touching the place where his fingers had brushed her hair, and wondered if she'd just imagined the whole thing. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange haze. Ethan still showed up for her shifts, but something had changed. They talked less. The silences felt heavier. Lena caught him looking at her sometimes with an expression she couldn't read. She wanted to ask what he was thinking, but was afraid of the answer. On a Tuesday in mid-December, everything came to a head. Lena was walking home from the diner. It was only 6 p.m., still light enough to see, when she spotted a woman stranded on the side of the road. The woman's car hood was up, steam rising from the engine. 2 small kids sat in the back seat, scared. Lena should have kept walking. She was already late for her catering shift. She had exactly $12 in her pocket and needed every penny. But the woman looked terrified, and the kids were crying, and Lena couldn't just walk past. Need help? She asked. The woman jumped, then relaxed when she saw Lena was another woman, not a threat. My car just died, she said. I don't know what happened. It was fine this morning, and now... Her voice cracked. I can't afford a tow truck, and I need to get my kids to my mother's before my shift starts. If I'm late again, I'll lose my job. Lena looked at the crying kids, at the woman's worn-out face, at the desperation that looked too familiar. How far away is your mother's house? Lena asked. 4 miles, but I can't leave my car here. They'll ticket it, and I can't afford... Wait here, Lena said. She walked to the corner and flagged down a ride share. When the driver pulled up, she gave him the address and handed him her last $12. This woman and her kids need to get there, Lena said. This should cover most of it. She'll pay you the rest when you arrive. I can't, the woman started. Yes, you can, Lena said firmly. Get your kids to your mother's. Call a friend about the car. You can handle one crisis at a time. You don't have to handle them all at once. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. I don't even know your name. You don't need to, Lena said. Just pay it forward someday. The car pulled away with the woman and her crying children. Lena stood on the corner and realized she'd just given away her bus fare. Her shift started in 40 minutes on the other side of the city. She was going to be late. Again. She pulled out her phone and called the catering company. I'm so sorry, she told the manager. I had an emergency. I'm going to be at least an hour late. Don't bother coming in, the manager said coldly. This is the 3rd time this month. You're done. The line went dead. Lena stood there, phone in hand, and felt the last pieces of her life crumble. No job. No money. Rent due in 2 weeks. She sank down onto the curb and started to laugh, because if she didn't laugh, she'd cry, and she was so tired of crying. Her phone buzzed. Where are you? Ethan's text said. Lena looked at the message for a long time. Then she sent him her location. He pulled up 15 minutes later, took one look at her face, and got out of the car. What happened? He asked, sitting down next to her on the curb. Lena told him, the stranded woman, the $12, getting fired. You gave away your last money to help a stranger, Ethan said, even though it meant losing your job. I'm an idiot, Lena said. No, Ethan said. You're extraordinary. Lena laughed bitterly. Extraordinarily broke, extraordinarily unemployed, extraordinarily screwed. Come work for me, Ethan said. Lena turned to stare at him. What? My company needs people for the holiday charity drive. It's temporary, but it pays well. Better than catering. I can get you in tomorrow. I can't take another handout from you, Lena said. It's not a handout. It's a job. You'd be working, earning a paycheck. You'd actually be doing me a favor. I'm understaffed and behind schedule. What kind of work? Organizing donations, coordinating with shelters, making sure people who need help actually get it. It's grunt work, but it matters. Lena studied his face. You're making this up. You're creating a job because you feel sorry for me. I'm creating a job because you just proved you're exactly the kind of person I need, Ethan said. Someone who actually cares about helping people instead of just checking boxes. The pay is $25 an hour, 4 weeks of work. Take it or leave it. $25 an hour. Lena did the math in her head. Full-time for 4 weeks, that was $4,000. Enough for rent, enough for her mother's medication, enough to breathe for a few months. Okay, she said quietly. Okay? Okay, I'll take the job. Thank you. Ethan stood and offered her his hand. She took it, let him pull her to her feet. One condition, he said. What? Stop thanking me for everything. It's a job, not a gift. You'll earn it. Lena nodded. Okay. No more thank yous. I didn't say that, Ethan said, and there was the ghost of a smile on his face. I just said stop thanking me for everything. There's a difference. They got in the car. Lena leaned back against the seat, exhausted. You scare me, she said quietly. Why? Because you keep saving me. And I'm starting to need you to, and that terrifies me. Ethan didn't answer right away. He just drove, his profile illuminated by passing streetlights. For what it's worth, he said finally, you scare me too. Why? Because I've spent 4 years keeping everyone at a distance, and then you showed up and just walked right past all my walls like they weren't even there. I didn't mean to, Lena said. I know, Ethan said. That's what makes it worse. They drove through the dark city, two lonely people pretending they weren't falling for each other, both knowing it was already too late to stop. The lobby of Cole International took up the entire ground floor of the building where Lena had worked catering shifts for months. She'd walked past the massive reception desk dozens of times carrying trays, invisible in her server's uniform. Now she stood in front of it wearing borrowed dress pants and a blouse she'd found at Goodwill, trying not to throw up from nerves. I'm here to see Ethan, she told the receptionist, a polished woman with perfect makeup and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ethan who? The woman asked. Just Ethan. He said to come to the lobby at 9 and someone would... You mean Mr. Cole? The receptionist's eyebrows rose. You're here to see Mr. Cole? Lena's stomach dropped. Cole? As in Cole International? Cole? Is there another one? The receptionist's smile turned pitying. I'm sorry, hun, but Mr. Cole doesn't take walk-in meetings. If you'd like to schedule an appointment through his assistant, Rachel, it's fine. She's with me. Lena turned to see a woman in her 40s approaching, dressed in an expensive suit, carrying a tablet. She had the brisk, efficient air of someone who managed chaos for a living. I'm Jennifer Park, Mr. Cole's assistant, the woman said, extending her hand. You must be Lena Brooks. He said you'd be starting today. Lena shook her hand numbly. Mr. Cole? Yes. Come on, I'll take you up. He's in meetings all morning but wanted me to get you oriented. They stepped into an elevator lined with mirrors. Lena caught sight of herself and wanted to disappear. Her thrift store blouse had a small stain near the collar she hadn't noticed before. Her shoes were the same ones with holes in the soles, just cleaned up as best she could manage. So you're working on the holiday charity drive? Jennifer asked as they ascended. I guess so. To be honest, I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. Mr. Cole speaks highly of you, Jennifer said, and there was something in her tone, curiosity maybe, or assessment. He doesn't usually personally recruit for temporary positions. The elevator doors opened on the 15th floor. The office space was all glass and steel and modern furniture that probably cost more than Lena's entire apartment building. People in expensive suits moved purposefully between cubicles and conference rooms, talking into headsets, typing rapidly on computers. Lena followed Jennifer through the maze of wealth and success, feeling more out of place with every step. They reached a large room at the end of the floor. Inside, a dozen people were sorting through boxes of donations, checking items against lists, making phone calls. It was controlled chaos, busy but organized. This is the Charity Coordination Center, Jennifer explained. We run it every December. Mr. Cole started it 7 years ago. Your job will be intake management, checking donations as they arrive, categorizing them, coordinating with the shelters and community centers that will receive them. That's it? Lena asked. That's the whole job? It's more work than it sounds like. We process about 10,000 individual donations in 4 weeks. Everything from canned food to winter coats to children's toys. It all needs to be logged, sorted, and distributed efficiently. Think you can handle it? Yes, Lena said, more confidently than she felt. Jennifer handed her the tablet. Good. Your supervisor is Marcus. That's him over there, tall guy with the glasses. He'll walk you through the system. Your shift is 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Time and a half if you work weekends, which we'll probably need. Any questions? About 1,000, but Lena shook her head. Jennifer studied her for a moment. Can I give you some advice? Sure. Whatever's going on between you and Mr. Cole, keep it professional while you're here. Office gossip spreads faster than a virus, and people will make assumptions. Don't give them ammunition. Heat flooded Lena's face. There's nothing going on. He's just helping me out. Right, Jennifer said in a tone that suggested she didn't believe that for a second. Well, either way, keep your head down and do good work. That's the best way to shut people up. She left before Lena could respond. Marcus turned out to be a genuinely nice guy in his mid-30s who seemed thrilled to have extra help. He spent the morning teaching Lena the database system, showing her how to categorize donations, explaining the distribution schedule. The work was straightforward but consuming. Lena fell into the rhythm of it. Scan barcode, enter quantity, assign destination, move to next item. It was mindless in a good way, the kind of repetitive task that let her thoughts drift, except her thoughts kept drifting to the same place. Ethan was Mr. Cole, as in the building was named after him, as in he owned the company, as in he wasn't just rich, he was stupid rich, billionaire rich, and he'd pretended to be a driver. He'd let her spill her guts about being poor while sitting in a car he probably owned outright. He'd listened to her talk about how rich people didn't care about workers like her while being one of the richest men in the city. Lena didn't know whether to be furious or humiliated, probably both. You okay? Marcus asked during lunch break. You've been glaring at that can of beans for like 2 minutes. Fine, Lena said. Just thinking. Well, don't think too hard. Beans aren't that complicated. Lena managed a weak smile and got back to work. She didn't see Ethan all day. Part of her was relieved. Part of her was disappointed. All of her was confused. At 5 o'clock, when her shift ended, she found Jennifer waiting by the elevator. Mr. Cole asked me to let you know he's available if you'd like to speak with him before you leave, Jennifer said. Where is he? 23rd floor, executive offices. I can take you up if... I'll find it, Lena said. She took the elevator up alone, her heart hammering. The 23rd floor was quiet, carpeted, intimidating. A young man sat at a desk outside a set of double doors. I'm here to see Ethan, Lena said. Mr. Cole? The assistant looked her up and down. Do you have an appointment? He said I could come up. The assistant picked up his phone, murmured into it, then nodded. Go ahead. Lena pushed through the double doors and stopped. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the skyline lit up against the darkening December sky. The furniture was sleek and modern. Framed photos lined one wall. Ethan with various important-looking people. Ethan cutting ribbons. Ethan shaking hands with what looked like a mayor or governor. And in the center of it all, behind a desk that probably cost more than Lena's annual income, sat Ethan. He stood when she entered. Lena. Don't, she said. Don't what? Don't say my name like we're friends. Don't act like this is normal. Don't... She gestured around the office. You lied to me. I never lied, Ethan said carefully. You let me think you were a driver. You assumed I was a driver. I just didn't correct you. That's the same thing. Is it? Ethan came around the desk. Would you have talked to me the same way if you'd known who I was? That's not the point. That's exactly the point, Ethan said. The first night, you saw a car and a driver, and you needed help. You were honest because you thought I was someone it was safe to be honest with. If I'd introduced myself as the CEO of a tech company, would you have told me about your mother's medication, about being $47 away from eviction, about your dreams of functional plumbing? No, Lena admitted. I would have smiled and said I was fine and never spoken to you again. Exactly. So I let you think what you thought because I wanted to know the real you, not the version you show to rich people who might judge you. And now? Lena asked. Now what? I'm supposed to just forget that you've been lying by omission for weeks? That every conversation we had was based on false pretenses? Nothing about those conversations was false, Ethan said, his voice rising slightly. Everything I told you was true. My daughter, my wife dying, being lonely, all of it was real. You left out the part where you're a billionaire, because it's not the part that matters. They stared at each other across the expensive office, both breathing hard. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Lena said quietly. This is why I didn't want to owe you money. Because now I find out you're not just some guy with a decent job. You're... She waved her hand helplessly at the office. And I'm just some broke waitress you felt sorry for. Don't, Ethan said sharply. Don't reduce what we have to pity. You know it's more than that. Do I? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like a bored billionaire playing at being normal with the poor girl who didn't know any better. Ethan crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. You want to know why I kept coming back? Why I showed up night after night, even though I had 1,000 other things I could have been doing? Because you're the first person in 4 years who made me feel like a human being instead of a bank account. You're the first person who listened when I talked about my daughter without calculating what you could get from me. You're the first person who saw past all of this, he gestured at the office, to the person underneath. What a see. How could I see past it when you never showed it to me? Lena asked, but her voice had lost some of its anger. I'm showing you now, Ethan said. Lena looked at him, really looked at him. He was still the same person, same gray-blue eyes, same scar above his eyebrow, same careful way of holding himself. But the context had shifted. Everything she thought she understood had been reframed. I don't know how to do this, she said. I don't know how to be around you now that I know. Try being around me the same way you did before, Ethan suggested. It's not that simple. Why not? Because before we were just 2 people. Now we're... She struggled for words. We're a billionaire and someone who owes him money. The power dynamic is completely... The power dynamic was always there, Ethan interrupted. I had money. You didn't. That didn't change. The only thing that changed is now you know the full extent of it. That's a pretty big extent, Lena said. Does it change how you feel about me? The question hung in the air between them. I don't know, Lena said honestly. Ask me again when I'm not so angry. Fair enough, Ethan said. Lena walked to the window and looked out at the city. From up here, it looked beautiful. Lights sparkling like stars, streets neat and organized. Nothing like the messy reality she lived in down below. Why did you give me this job? She asked. Because you needed one and I had it available. And that's it? There's no ulterior motive? Ethan came to stand beside her at the window. I wanted you close. Is that ulterior enough? Close for what? I don't know yet, Ethan admitted. I just know I'm not ready to stop seeing you. Lena turned to face him. What do you want from me, Ethan? Honestly, I have no idea. I haven't thought this through. I just know that when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to care about something other than profit margins and stock prices. And I don't want to lose that. I'm not some magic cure for your existential crisis, Lena said. I know that. And I can't be your charity project. You're not? Then what am I? Ethan looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, his careful mask slipped completely. You're the person I think about when I wake up in the morning, he said quietly. You're the reason I started looking forward to 11 p.m. instead of dreading another empty evening. You're the first woman since my wife died that I've wanted to know everything about. And that terrifies me because I have no idea what to do with it. Lena felt her anger crack and crumble. You're an idiot. Probably. You should have told me the truth from the beginning. Would you have given me a chance if I had? No, Lena admitted, but at least I wouldn't feel like such a fool now. You're not a fool, Ethan said. You're cautious and self-protective, and those are good things. I'm sorry I put you in a position where you feel betrayed. That wasn't my intention. Lena sighed. I know, I need time to process this. All of it. Take all the time you need, Ethan said. The job is yours regardless. No strings attached. Everything has strings, Lena said. Not this. I promise. Lena studied his face, looking for signs of deception, but all she saw was sincerity. Okay, she said finally. I'll stay, but we need boundaries. Work is work. Whatever this other thing is, it stays separate. Agreed, Ethan said. And you don't get to use your money to fix my problems anymore. If I need help, I'll ask. But no more surprise medication payments or random handouts. That's going to be difficult, Ethan said. Try, Lena said firmly. Fine. Anything else? Yeah, stop looking at me like that. Like what? Like you want to kiss me, Lena said, her heart hammering. That's going to be even more difficult, Ethan said quietly. The air between them felt charged, electric. Lena knew she should leave, should walk out of his office and maintain the professional boundaries she'd just insisted on. Should not let this complicated, impossible situation get any more complicated. Instead, she stayed exactly where she was. We should be smart about this, she said. Probably, Ethan agreed. This is a terrible idea. The worst. So why aren't either of us moving? I have no idea, Ethan said. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He ignored it. It rang again. You should get that, Lena said. It can wait. Ethan. He sighed and picked up the phone. What? Lena couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she watched Ethan's expression shift from irritation to concern. When? Is she okay? I'll be right there. He hung up and grabbed his coat. I have to go. Sophie's school called. She's sick. Go, Lena said. I'll see you tomorrow. Ethan hesitated at the door. We're okay? We're something, Lena said. I'm still figuring out what. He left in a rush, and Lena stood alone in the massive office, trying to make sense of everything that had just happened. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work. Lena threw herself into the donation sorting, grateful for the distraction. She was good at the job, Marcus told her. Fast, accurate, thorough. It felt good to be competent at something. She saw Ethan in passing a few times, walking through the office, in meetings visible through glass walls, once in the elevator where they made awkward small talk about the weather. It was strange and stilted and nothing like their comfortable car conversations. Lena missed the ease they'd had before, but she didn't know how to get it back. On Friday afternoon, Jennifer appeared at Lena's workstation. Mr. Cole needs to see you, she said. What for? He didn't say. Conference room C, third door on the left. Lena found the conference room. Ethan was inside, but he wasn't alone. A small girl with dark hair and Ethan's eyes sat at the table coloring. Sophie, Ethan said. This is my friend Lena. Lena, this is my daughter. Sophie looked up and smiled. She was missing one of her front teeth. Hi, she said. Do you work with my dad? I do, Lena said, caught off guard. He says you're really nice. Are you really nice? Sophie, Ethan said, a warning in his voice. It's okay, Lena said, sitting down across from the girl. I try to be nice. Whether I succeed is debatable. Sophie giggled. That's a funny way to talk. What are you drawing? Lena asked. A unicorn, but it looks like a horse with a carrot on its head. Lena looked at the drawing. Sophie wasn't wrong. Maybe it's a horse that ate a carrot and it got stuck? Sophie laughed harder. That's silly. Sorry to ambush you, Ethan said to Lena. My babysitter canceled last minute, and I have a meeting I can't reschedule. I was hoping you could keep an eye on her for an hour. You want me to watch your daughter? Lena asked, surprised. Only if you're comfortable. If not, I can... It's fine, Lena said. I can do it. You're sure? Ethan, I've worked in food service for 8 years. I can handle one 6-year-old. Famous last words, Ethan said, but he looked relieved. I'll be back as soon as I can. Sophie, be good for Lena. I'm always good, Sophie said, not looking up from her drawing. Ethan left. Lena and Sophie sat in the conference room, the only sound the scratch of crayons on paper. Are you my dad's girlfriend? Sophie asked suddenly. Lena nearly choked. What? No, we're just friends. He talks about you a lot, Sophie said matter-of-factly. He never talks about ladies except for Jennifer. And she's old. Jennifer's not that old, Lena said. She's like 40, Sophie said, like that was ancient. Are you old? I'm 30. Is that old? Sophie considered this. A little, but not as old as Jennifer. Lena tried not to laugh. Well, that's reassuring. Do you have kids? Sophie asked. No. Why not? Because I don't have a partner, and kids are expensive, and I can barely take care of myself. Sophie frowned. That's sad. Sometimes life is sad, Lena said. But that's okay. My mom died, Sophie said, still coloring. That was really sad. Lena's heart clenched. I heard. I'm sorry. It's okay. I don't really remember her. Dad has pictures, but they just look like some lady. Sophie looked up. Is that bad, that I don't remember? No, Lena said gently. It's not bad. You were really young. Dad remembers. Sometimes he gets sad when he looks at her pictures, but he doesn't cry. Grown-ups aren't supposed to cry. Who told you that? Dad. Your dad is wrong, Lena said. Grown-ups cry sometimes. It's okay to be sad. Sophie thought about this. Do you cry? Sometimes, Lena admitted. About what? Lots of things. Money, my mom being sick, being tired, feeling alone. I feel alone sometimes too, Sophie said quietly. Even when Dad's there. Is that weird? No, Lena said. That's really normal, actually. They sat together in comfortable silence. Sophie went back to her unicorn horse. Lena watched her and felt something shift in her chest. This was Ethan's whole world, the small, observant child who said profound things without realizing it. This was what he went home to every night. This was what mattered to him more than money or success or anything else. Can I tell you a secret? Sophie asked. Sure. I wish Dad had a girlfriend, not because I need a mom or anything, just because he's lonely. He thinks I don't notice, but I do. He has you, Lena said. That's different, Sophie said wisely. I'm his kid. He needs a grown-up friend who's not at work. He has those, Lena said. No, he doesn't, Sophie said. He just has people who want his money. You're the only person who talks to him normal. How do you know that? Because he smiles different when he talks about you, Sophie said. Like a real smile, not a work smile. Before Lena could respond, Ethan returned. How was she? He asked. Perfect, Lena said. We had a great chat. Uh-oh, Ethan said. What did she tell you? Nothing, Sophie said innocently. We just talked about unicorns. Ethan looked between them suspiciously, but didn't press. Come on, kiddo, time to go home. Can Lena come? Sophie asked. Sophie, please, I want to show her my room. Ethan looked at Lena helplessly. You don't have to. I'd like to, Lena said, surprising herself. That's okay. Something crossed Ethan's face. Relief, maybe. Or hope. Yeah, he said. That would be okay. They took Ethan's car, a different one than the black sedan, something bigger and more family-friendly. Sophie chattered the whole way about school and friends, and a boy named Marcus who ate glue. The house was in Lincoln Park, 3 stories of brick and glass that probably cost more than Lena would earn in 5 lifetimes. But inside it was surprisingly warm, lived in. Sophie's drawings covered the fridge, toys scattered the living room, photos lined the hallway, Sophie as a baby, Sophie learning to walk, Sophie at various ages with Ethan, and a few photos of a woman Lena assumed was Ethan's late wife. She'd been beautiful, young, smiling in every picture. That's Mom, Sophie said, following Lena's gaze. Dad says she was the best person he ever knew. I'm sure she was, Lena said softly. Sophie dragged Lena upstairs to see her room, which was an explosion of pink and purple and stuffed animals. They played with dolls for a while, Sophie narrating elaborate stories about princesses and dragons. When they came back downstairs, Ethan had made dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and sauce. But he'd set the table for 3. Stay, he said to Lena. Please. So she did. They ate together, the 3 of them, while Sophie told stories that went nowhere and Ethan listened with patience. It felt domestic, normal, like something Lena had never had but always wanted without knowing it. After dinner, Sophie begged Lena to read her a bedtime story. Ethan started to object, but Lena said yes before he could. She sat on Sophie's bed reading about a mouse who wanted to be a princess, while Sophie's eyes got heavier and heavier. By the last page, she was asleep. Lena found Ethan in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher. She likes you, he said. I like her too. She's special. Yeah, Ethan said softly. She is. I should go, Lena said. I'll drive you. It's okay. I can take the bus. Lena, let me drive you. So she did, one more time, in the car where this all started. But this time it felt different, heavier with possibility. Thank you, Ethan said as they pulled up to her building. For today. For being patient with Sophie. For staying. She told me you're lonely, Lena said. She's 6. What does she know? More than you think, apparently. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Is she right? Yeah, Lena said. But so am I. So maybe that's something we have in common. Maybe, Ethan agreed. Lena reached for the door handle, then stopped. I don't know how to do this, she said. I don't know how to be around you without getting hurt. The gap between our lives is too big. You live in a house with 3 floors and I sleep on a couch. You have money and power and options, and I have debt and desperation. How is this supposed to work? I don't know, Ethan said honestly, but I'd like to find out. If you're willing to try. Lena looked at him. This impossible man who'd driven her home night after night, who'd paid for her mother's medication, who had a daughter that made his eyes light up when she talked, who was lonely in the middle of all his success, who looked at Lena like she mattered. Okay, she said quietly. Let's try. Trying turned out to be more complicated than either of them expected. The office made everything harder. People noticed when Ethan stopped by the Charity Coordination Center more often than necessary. They noticed when Lena smiled at him differently than she smiled at Marcus or the other volunteers. They noticed when he brought her coffee in the morning, always black with no sugar. You need to be more careful, Jennifer told Lena one afternoon, appearing at her workstation with a stack of files. The rumor mill is already working overtime. We're not doing anything wrong, Lena said defensively. I didn't say you were. I'm saying perception matters, especially for him. Jennifer lowered her voice. Mr. Cole has worked incredibly hard to build his reputation. One whiff of impropriety with an employee and the board will have a field day. I'm temporary staff for a charity program, Lena said. Not exactly a scandal. You'd be surprised what people can turn into a scandal when they want to. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. Look, I'm not trying to be difficult. I actually think you're good for him. I haven't seen him this present in years. Just be smart about it. For both your sakes. She left before Lena could respond. That evening, Lena brought it up during dinner at Ethan's house. It had become a routine over the past 2 weeks. She'd finish work, he'd drive her to his place, they'd make dinner together while Sophie did homework at the kitchen table. It felt dangerously domestic. Jennifer warned me about office gossip today, Lena said, chopping vegetables while Ethan stirred sauce on the stove. What did she say? That we need to be more careful, that people are talking. Ethan's jaw tightened. Let them talk. Easy for you to say. You're the boss. I'm the broke temporary worker who's probably only here because she's sleeping with you. You're not sleeping with me, Ethan pointed out. They don't know that. Do you care what they think? Lena set down the knife. I care that people assume the only reason a man like you would pay attention to a woman like me is because you're getting something out of it. What's a woman like you? Ethan asked, turning to face her. Poor, uneducated, forgettable. Stop, Ethan said sharply. You're none of those things. I didn't finish college, Lena said. I work minimum wage jobs. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with broken plumbing. Those are just facts. Those are circumstances, Ethan corrected. They're not who you are. They're exactly who I am, Lena said tiredly. I'm starting to think you don't see that. You see some version of me you've built up in your head, but the reality is I'm just a waitress who got lucky enough to catch a billionaire's attention for 5 minutes. Ethan turned off the stove and crossed to her. Is that really what you think this is? I don't know what to think anymore, Lena admitted. We're from completely different worlds, Ethan. You have a house worth millions, and I have a couch with broken springs. You went to Harvard, and I went to community college for 3 semesters before I had to drop out to take care of my mom. Your daughter goes to a private school that probably costs more per year than I've ever made in my life. How is any of this supposed to work? Are you asking me for a detailed plan, or are you just scared? Ethan asked quietly. Both, Lena said. Before Ethan could respond, Sophie appeared in the doorway. Are you guys fighting? She asked, her voice small. No, sweetheart, Ethan said quickly. We're just talking. It sounds like fighting, Sophie said. That's how you sounded with Mom before she got sick, talking in that quiet, angry way. Ethan and Lena exchanged glances. We're okay, Lena said gently. Sometimes grown-ups have to talk about hard things. It's not fighting, it's just figuring stuff out. Sophie didn't look convinced, but she nodded and went back to her homework. They finished making dinner in silence. The meal was tense, Sophie chattering nervously to fill the quiet. After she went to bed, Ethan drove Lena home. I'm sorry, Lena said as they pulled up to her building. I shouldn't have said all that in front of Sophie. You were being honest, Ethan said. I'd rather have honesty than pretense. Still, she doesn't need to hear me having doubts. Do you? Have doubts? Lena looked out at her shabby building, at the broken streetlight that had been out for 6 months, at the group of guys smoking on the corner who would catcall her when she got out of the car. Every single day, she said. Don't you? Not about you, Ethan said. About whether I'm doing this right, yes. About whether I'm moving too fast or not fast enough, constantly. But about wanting you in my life? No. No doubts. That's because you're not the one taking all the risk, Lena said. What risk? You could walk away from this tomorrow and be fine. Your life wouldn't change. But I've let myself start caring about you and Sophie, and when this inevitably falls apart, I'm the one who gets destroyed. You go back to your mansion and your company and your perfectly ordered life. I go back to my broken couch knowing exactly what I lost. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. You think this would be easy for me? He asked finally. You think losing you wouldn't matter? I think it would matter less, Lena said, because you have so much more to fall back on. Money doesn't fix loneliness, Ethan said. Trust me, I've tried. At least you can be lonely in comfort, Lena said, then immediately felt terrible. Sorry. That was cruel. But honest, Ethan said, which is what we said we'd be. Lena unbuckled her seatbelt but didn't get out of the car. I don't know how to do this, she said. I don't know how to be with someone who lives in a completely different reality than me. Every time I'm at your house, I'm hyper-aware of how I don't belong there. Every time you're at work, I'm worried people are judging me for taking advantage of you. Every time I see how Sophie looks at me, I panic because what happens when you realize this was a mistake and she's already attached to me? What if it's not a mistake? Ethan asked. It has to be, Lena said. The statistics alone, I don't care about statistics. Well, I do, Lena said. I care that relationships between people from vastly different economic backgrounds fail at astronomical rates. I care that your family and friends probably think you're slumming it with the help. I care that I'm getting in deeper every day and I have no safety net when this crashes. Then what do you want to do? Ethan asked. End it now? Before anyone gets hurt worse? Lena looked at him, at the face she'd memorized over weeks of car rides, at the man who'd shown up for her again and again, even when he didn't have to. I don't want to end it, she whispered. That's the problem. Then don't, Ethan said simply. It's not that easy. Why not? Because I'm terrified, Lena's voice cracked. I'm terrified of losing you, and I'm terrified of keeping you, and I'm terrified that I'm making the biggest mistake of my life, but I can't seem to stop myself from falling, and that scares me most of all. Ethan reached across and took her hand. I'm scared too, he said quietly. I haven't let anyone this close since Rachel died. The thought of something happening to you, of losing someone else I care about, it keeps me up at night, but I'd rather be scared with you than safe and alone. Lena squeezed his hand. We're a mess, aren't we? Completely, Ethan agreed. She leaned over and kissed him. Just briefly, just a brush of lips, but it felt like jumping off a cliff. When she pulled back, Ethan's eyes were closed. Go inside, he said, his voice rough. Before I do something stupid like ask you to stay. Would that be so stupid? Lena asked. Yes, Ethan said, because we're trying to do this right. And doing it right means taking our time. Lena got out of the car, but before she closed the door, she leaned back in. Ethan? Yeah? I'm glad you kept showing up. Me too, he said. The next few weeks were better. They found a rhythm that worked, professional at the office, close but careful in front of Sophie, honest when they were alone. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The charity drive was wrapping up just before Christmas. They'd processed over 12,000 donations, distributed to 40 different organizations across Chicago. It was exhausting work, but meaningful, and Lena found herself actually enjoying it. On the last day, Marcus brought in champagne for the team. To Lena, he said, raising his plastic cup, who processed more donations than anyone else and made my job 1,000 times easier. We're going to miss you. Everyone cheered. Lena felt herself blush. After the small celebration, she was packing up her things when Jennifer appeared. Mr. Cole wants to see you, she said. His office. Lena's stomach dropped. Is something wrong? I don't think so, Jennifer said. But he asked me to send you up before you left. Lena took the elevator to the 23rd floor, her heart hammering. She'd been in Ethan's office a handful of times over the past month, usually for quick conversations about Sophie or dinner plans, but something about being summoned felt ominous. Ethan was at his desk, reviewing documents. He looked up when she entered and smiled. Close the door, he said. She did. How does it feel to be done with the charity drive, he asked. Good, Lena said. Scary. I don't know what I'm going to do for work now. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Ethan stood and came around the desk. I have a proposition. That sounds ominous. It's not. I hope. He took a breath. We have an opening in our community outreach department. Permanent position, full benefits, salary not hourly. The job would be coordinating our charitable partnerships year-round, managing volunteer programs, that kind of thing. You'd be good at it. Lena stared at him. You're offering me a job? I'm telling you about an opening that you should apply for, Ethan corrected. You'd have to interview with HR like anyone else. I can't just hire you without process. It would be inappropriate, Lena finished, like everything else about this. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Lena crossed her arms. Let me guess. This opening just conveniently appeared right when my temporary position ended. It's a real position, Ethan said. We've been planning to create it for months. The timing is coincidental. I don't believe in coincidence, Lena said. Then believe in the fact that you're qualified. You've proven over the past month that you're organized, efficient, and genuinely care about the work. Those are the exact qualifications we need. And the fact that we're sleeping together has nothing to do with it? We're not sleeping together, Ethan said, his patience clearly wearing thin. But we're involved, romantically, whatever you want to call it. That's a conflict of interest. Only if I'm your direct supervisor, which I wouldn't be. You'd report to the head of community relations, not to me. Lena paced the office. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You using your position to help me. I'm not using anything, Ethan said. I'm telling you about a job opening. What you do with that information is up to you. What if I don't get it? What if I interview and they decide I'm not qualified? Then you don't get it, Ethan said simply. I won't interfere either way. Lena stopped pacing and looked at him. Promise? I promise. This is your decision, Lena. I'm just giving you the option. She thought about it. A real job. Salary, benefits, stability. The kind of work that actually meant something. It was everything she'd needed without knowing how to ask for it. It was also terrifying. What happens if we break up? She asked. If this thing between us doesn't work out and I'm working here, how awkward will that be? Extremely, Ethan admitted, but I'd like to think we're both professional enough to handle it. You have more faith in humanity than I do. One of us has to, Ethan said. Lena took a breath. Okay, I'll apply. But if I get it, it's because I earned it, not because of you. Agreed, Ethan said. She interviewed the following week. The head of community relations was a woman named Patricia, who'd been with the company for 15 years. She was thorough, professional, and gave no indication whether she knew about Lena's connection to Ethan. We'll be in touch, Patricia said at the end of the hour-long interview. 3 days later, Jennifer called. You got the job, she said. Congratulations, you start January 2nd. Lena stood in her apartment, phone in hand, feeling dizzy. She had a real job, with benefits, making $48,000 a year, which was more money than she'd ever imagined earning. She called Ethan. I got it, she said when he answered. I know, Patricia just told me. Congratulations. Did you have anything to do with the decision? No, Ethan said firmly. Patricia makes her own hiring choices. I stayed completely out of it. Okay, Lena said. Okay, I just needed to hear you say it. You earned this, Ethan said. Now celebrate. Lena hung up and looked around her shabby apartment. For the first time in 8 years, she could see a way out. She could afford a better place, could get her mom better care, could buy shoes without holes in them. She called her mother into the living room and told her the news. Her mother cried, and Lena cried, and they held each other on the lumpy couch that had been home for too long. 2 weeks before Christmas, Ethan invited Lena to a charity gala his company was hosting. "It's black tie," he warned, "very formal. You'd be going as my date, which means people will definitely talk." "I don't have anything to wear to something like that," Lena said. "I can—" "Don't," Lena interrupted. "Don't offer to buy me a dress. I'll figure it out." She borrowed a dress from a coworker at her old diner job, a simple black thing that was slightly too big but would work. She did her own makeup, pulled her hair into a bun, and tried not to think about how out of place she was going to feel. Ethan picked her up at 7. When she opened the door, he stared. "You look beautiful," he said. "I look like I'm playing dress-up," Lena said. "But thanks." The gala was at a hotel downtown, the same hotel where she'd worked catering shifts dozens of times. It felt surreal walking in through the front entrance instead of the service door. The ballroom was full of Chicago's elite, politicians, business leaders, society people whose names Lena recognized from newspapers. Everyone was beautiful, polished, expensive. Lena felt like a fraud. "Breathe," Ethan murmured in her ear. "You belong here as much as anyone." "That's objectively not true," Lena whispered back. He introduced her to people whose names she immediately forgot. She smiled and nodded and tried not to feel like the help masquerading as a guest. Dinner was served. Lena sat at Ethan's table, hyper-aware of which fork to use, whether she was holding her wine glass correctly, if she was chewing too loudly. The woman next to her, dripping in diamonds, asked what Lena did for a living. "I work in community outreach," Lena said, "for Coal International." "Oh, how nice," the woman said in a tone that suggested it wasn't nice at all. "And how did you meet Ethan?" "He gave me a ride when I missed my bus," Lena said honestly. The woman's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. How romantic. It didn't sound like a compliment. After dinner, there were speeches. Awards given to generous donors. A presentation about the company's charitable initiatives. Ethan was called to the stage to say a few words. Lena watched him up there, comfortable and confident in a way she would never be in these settings. He talked about responsibility and giving back and using success to help others. Everyone applauded. When he returned to the table, a man Lena didn't recognize clapped him on the shoulder. "A great speech, Cole, though I have to say I'm surprised to see you here with a date. We all thought you'd be married to your work forever." "Things change," Ethan said mildly. The man looked at Lena with poorly disguised curiosity. "And who's the lucky lady?" "Lena Brooks," Ethan said. "Lena, this is Richard Ashford. He sits on our board." "Pleasure," Richard said, shaking her hand. His grip was slightly too firm, his smile slightly too assessing. "How long have you two been seeing each other?" "A few months," Ethan said before Lena could answer. Richard said. "Well, you're certainly full of surprises these days, aren't you?" He walked away, leaving an uncomfortable silence. "He seems lovely," Lena said dryly. "He's a nightmare," Ethan agreed. "But he controls a significant number of board votes, so I have to be nice to him." "Politics," Lena said. "The worst kind," Ethan agreed. Later, during the dancing portion of the evening, Ethan led Lena onto the floor. She'd never learned to ballroom dance properly, but he guided her through it. "You're tense," he said quietly. "I'm terrified of stepping on your feet." "I meant emotionally." "I don't belong here," Lena said. "Everyone knows it. That Richard guy looked at me like I was something you scraped off your shoe." "Richard looks at everyone like that," Ethan said. "It's not personal." "It feels personal." "Do you want to leave?" Lena looked around at the glittering crowd, the crystal chandeliers, the wealth dripping from every corner of the room. "No," she said. "I want to stay and prove I can handle this." "You don't have to prove anything," Ethan said. "Yes, I do," Lena said. "To them. To you. To myself." They danced in silence for a while. Then Ethan pulled her slightly closer. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For being here. For trying. For not running even though I know you want to." "How do you know I want to run?" "Because I know you," Ethan said. And because you get this look in your eyes when you're about to bolt. You're wearing it right now. Lena tried to smile. That obvious? Only to me. The song ended. A new one started. They kept dancing. And then across the ballroom, Lena saw someone she recognized. The event coordinator from the catering company. The woman who'd fired her 6 weeks ago. Their eyes met. The woman's face went through several expressions. Surprise, recognition, confusion, and finally something that looked like vindication. Lena could practically see the woman doing the math. The fired waitress was here as a guest, on the arm of Ethan Cole himself. The rumors would spread before the night was over. "We need to go," Lena said suddenly. "What? Why?" "Please, I need to leave." Ethan didn't argue. They collected their coats and left, the cold December air hitting them as they exited the hotel. "What happened?" Ethan asked as they waited for the valet to bring his car. "The woman who fired me was there," Lena said. "She saw us together. By tomorrow, everyone in the catering world will know I'm sleeping with you." "You're not sleeping with me," Ethan said automatically. "They don't know that." Lena's voice rose. "All they'll know is I got fired, and 3 weeks later I'm at a charity gala with a billionaire. They'll think I manipulated this somehow, that I was using you all along." "Who cares what they think?" "I care," Lena said. "I care that people will assume the worst of me. I care that my reputation in this city is about to be destroyed. I care that—" She stopped because she was on the verge of tears and refused to cry at a valet stand. The car arrived. They got in. Ethan drove in silence for several blocks. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "I didn't think about how this would affect your life outside of us." "How could you?" Lena said tiredly. "You live in a world where reputations don't matter because you have enough money to not care. I don't have that luxury." "What do you want me to do?" Ethan asked. "I don't know," Lena admitted. I need to think." He pulled up to her building, but she didn't get out. "Are you okay?" he asked. "No," Lena said honestly, "but I will be. I just need some time to process this." "Take all the time you need," Ethan said. She leaned over and kissed his cheek. "Thank you for trying to make tonight good." "It started good," Ethan said. "We'll work on the ending next time." Lena went inside feeling like she'd just survived a battle. Her mother was asleep. She changed out of the borrowed dress and lay on her couch, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed, a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Saw you tonight at the gala. Guess you landed on your feet after all. Or should I say on your back?" Lena deleted it. Then another came, and another. By midnight, she'd received 7 messages from people she used to work with, each one more vicious than the last. Accusations, assumptions, crude jokes about how she'd secured her promotion. She turned off her phone and tried to sleep. But all she could think about was how right she'd been to be scared. How the gap between her world and Ethan's wasn't just about money. It was about everything: reputation, perception, the way people looked at you and made judgments that could destroy you. She'd known this would be hard. She just hadn't realized how much it would hurt. Lena didn't answer Ethan's calls for 3 days. She went to work at the diner, her last week there before starting at Cole International, and kept her head down. The other servers had seen the texts too, apparently. Word traveled fast in the service industry. They looked at her differently now. Some with envy, some with disgust, most with a mixture of both. "Must be nice," one of them said during a shift change, loud enough for Lena to hear. "Sleeping your way into a corporate job." Lena pretended she hadn't heard and kept wiping down tables. On the 4th day, Ethan showed up at the diner. He walked in during the lunch rush, completely out of place in his expensive suit among the cracked vinyl booths and tired waitresses. Every head turned. Lena's coworkers stared. "We need to talk," he said when he reached her station. "I'm working," Lena said, not meeting his eyes. "Then I'll wait." He sat down in her section and ordered coffee. "Black? No sugar." Then he stayed there for 3 hours, nursing the same cup, ignoring the stares and whispers, waiting. When Lena's shift finally ended, she had no choice but to acknowledge him. "You shouldn't be here," she said, sliding into the booth across from him. "You wouldn't answer my calls." "Because I needed space." "It's been 4 days, Lena. That's not space. That's avoiding." "Maybe I was avoiding," Lena said. "Maybe I needed to figure out if this is worth what it's costing me." Ethan's jaw tightened. "And what conclusion did you reach?" I don't know yet, Lena said honestly. Every time I think I've made a decision, something else happens. The texts won't stop. People I've worked with for years won't look at me. Yesterday, someone left a note on my locker calling me a gold-digging whore. Ethan's expression darkened. Who? Does it matter? The point is, being with you is destroying my reputation. Your reputation with people who don't matter, Ethan said. They matter to me, Lena shot back. These are my people, Ethan, my community. You get to live in your tower with your important friends and your charity galas, but I have to exist down here in the real world where reputations are all you have. Then come up to my world, Ethan said. Start your new job. Build a new reputation with people who actually respect you. And leave behind everyone I've ever known? Just abandon my whole life because it's inconvenient for your narrative? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Lena demanded. Because from where I'm sitting, you keep asking me to change my entire existence to fit into yours, and you give up nothing. Ethan was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful, measured. You're right, he said. I'm asking you to take all the risk. I'm asking you to trust me when you have no reason to. I'm asking you to step into a life that doesn't feel like yours while I stay comfortable in mine. That's not fair. No, Lena agreed. It's not. So what do you want me to do? How do I make this more equal? Lena looked at him, at this man who'd driven her home on cold nights, who'd paid for her mother's medication without hesitation, who had a 6-year-old daughter who asked if Lena was her dad's girlfriend. I want you to understand what you're asking of me, she said quietly. I want you to see that every step I take toward you is a step away from everything I've ever known. And I want you to be honest about whether I'm worth that kind of sacrifice from you. You are, Ethan said without hesitation. You don't know that. You barely know me. I know enough. You know the version of me that exists in your car and at your dinner table, Lena said. You don't know the version that can't pay her rent or panics about grocery money or lies awake at night wondering if her mom's going to die because she can't afford better care. You don't know the version that's angry and resentful and tired of being poor. You've only seen the parts of me that are convenient for you. That's not true, Ethan said. Isn't it? Lena challenged. When have you ever seen me at my worst? When have you seen me truly struggling, not just temporarily inconvenienced? You've seen me tired and frustrated, sure, but you've never seen me desperate. You've never seen me when there's no hope left, and I'm just surviving out of spite. That's the real me, Ethan, and I don't think you'd like her very much. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. Try me, he said. Lena pulled her hand back. I can't. Because if I show you that version and you walk away, I won't survive it. I've already let myself care too much. If I let you all the way in and you decide I'm not worth the complication, it'll break me. Then we're at an impasse, Ethan said, because you won't let me in enough to prove I'm staying, and I can't prove I'm staying until you let me in. Maybe that means this doesn't work, Lena said, even though the words hurt to say. Or maybe it means we both have to take a leap of faith, Ethan countered. They sat in the booth, the diner's fluorescent lights harsh and unflattering, and Lena felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. I start the new job in a week, she said finally. Let me get through that first. Let me see if I can actually survive in your world before we make any big declarations about what this is. Okay, Ethan said, but I'm not going anywhere, just so we're clear. We'll see, Lena said. She slid out of the booth and left him sitting there, knowing he was watching her go, knowing she was hurting him by keeping him at a distance. But self-preservation had kept her alive this long. She wasn't ready to abandon it just yet. The week before Christmas, Lena's mother had a heart episode. Lena came home from her last shift at the diner to find her mother on the floor of the bathroom, conscious but struggling to breathe. The ambulance ride to the hospital was a blur of sirens and panic, and a paramedic asking questions Lena couldn't focus enough to answer. At the ER, they stabilized her mother and moved her to a cardiac unit. The doctor, a tired woman with kind eyes, explained that the medication wasn't working as well as it should. Her mother needed a procedure, possibly surgery, definitely more intensive treatment. How much? Lena asked. The doctor hesitated. With your insurance, you'd be looking at around $15,000 out of pocket. We can set up a payment plan. $15,000, Lena repeated numbly. She sat in the waiting room after the doctor left, doing math that didn't work no matter how many times she tried. Her new job had better insurance, but it hadn't kicked in yet. She had maybe $3,000 in savings, money she'd been carefully building from the charity drive job. Nowhere near enough. Her phone was in her hand before she consciously decided to use it. "Lena?" Ethan answered on the first ring. "Is everything okay?" "My mom's in the hospital," Lena said, and her voice cracked. "Her heart. She needs surgery, and I don't have the money, and I know I said I didn't want your help, but I don't know what else to do." "Which hospital?" Ethan interrupted. She told him. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said. "Don't make any decisions until I get there." He arrived in 15, Sophie in tow because apparently he'd been picking her up from school when Lena called. "Is Lena's mom going to die?" Sophie asked, her eyes wide with fear. "No, sweetheart," Ethan said, though he had no way of knowing that. "The doctors are taking good care of her." He pulled Lena aside while Sophie sat in the waiting room, coloring in a book a nurse had given her. "Tell me what they said," Ethan said. Lena explained about the surgery, the cost, the payment plan she couldn't afford even with installments. "I'll take care of it," Ethan said. "I can't let you do that." "Lena, I mean it," she said. "I can't keep taking money from you. I'm already in debt to you for hundreds of dollars. If you pay for this too, I'll never get out from under it. I'll never be able to look at you without seeing what I owe you." "Then don't think of it as debt," Ethan said. "Think of it as, what, a gift? Charity? Either way, it's me taking from you and giving nothing back." "You give me plenty back," Ethan said quietly. "Like what? What could I possibly give you that's worth $15,000? "You give me hope," Ethan said simply. "You give me a reason to care about something other than quarterly earnings and board meetings. You give Sophie someone who talks to her like she's a real person instead of a trophy to show off. You give me a future that doesn't look like just me and my daughter alone in that house forever. Is that worth $15,000? To me, yes, absolutely." Lena felt tears spill over. "I hate this. I hate needing you." "I know," Ethan said, "but right now your mother needs surgery and I can pay for it. Can we deal with your pride later and her health now?" Lena nodded, defeated. Ethan talked to the hospital administrators. Papers were signed. The surgery was scheduled for the next day. Lena's mother would get the care she needed, and Lena would owe Ethan Cole another piece of her independence. That night, Ethan insisted Lena stay at his house instead of the hospital. Sophie needed to sleep in her own bed, he reasoned, and Lena needed rest before the surgery. Her mother was stable and sleeping. The nurses had Lena's number if anything changed. At the house, Sophie made Lena hot chocolate and showed her drawings she'd made at school. "This one is you," Sophie said, pointing to a stick figure with brown hair. "And this is Dad. And this is me. We're all holding hands." "That's beautiful," Lena said, her voice thick. "Are you sad?" Sophie asked. "A little," Lena admitted. "Because your mom is sick?" "Yeah." "When my mom was sick," Sophie said carefully, "Dad cried a lot. But he tried to hide it. Are you trying to hide it?" "Maybe a little," Lena said. "You don't have to," Sophie said. "Dad says it's okay to be sad when people you love are sick." After Sophie went to bed, Lena and Ethan sat in his living room. It was late, nearly midnight. Tomorrow her mother would have surgery that Ethan was paying for. In a week, Lena would start a job at Ethan's company. Her entire life was becoming entangled with his, and she didn't know how to stop it. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for today, for everything." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You dropped everything to help me. You brought your daughter to a hospital waiting room. You paid for surgery without even knowing if my mother will survive it." "She'll survive it," Ethan said with certainty he couldn't possibly have. "You don't know that." "No," Ethan admitted, "but I choose to believe it anyway." They sat in silence for a while. Then Lena spoke. "I'm falling in love with you," she said, "and it terrifies me." Ethan went very still. "Why does it terrify you?" "Because I've never loved anyone who had the power to destroy me. My mom, she's my responsibility, but it's different. This, it's choosing to give someone the ability to break me, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to survive it if you do." "I won't," Ethan said. "You can't promise that. People leave, people die. People decide you're not worth the trouble. It happens." "It does," Ethan agreed. "Rachel left, not by choice, but she left, and it nearly destroyed me. So I understand what you're afraid of, but I also know that the alternative, Never loving anyone, never risking that pain, that's not living, that's just existing. Maybe existing is safer, Lena said. It is, Ethan said, but is it worth it? Lena looked at him, this man who'd seen her at her most vulnerable and hadn't run, who'd paid for her mother's surgery without making her feel small, who had a daughter who drew pictures of the three of them holding hands. I don't want to just exist, she whispered. Then don't, Ethan said. He moved closer, and this time when he kissed her, Lena didn't pull away. She let herself fall into it, into him, into the terrifying possibility that maybe this could work. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he said. Not just tonight. Stay. I have an apartment, Lena said weakly, with a broken heater and a leak in the bathroom and a couch you've been sleeping on for 8 years. Stay here. Move in. Let me help you. That's too fast. Is it? We've been circling each other for months. I think we're past too fast. What about Sophie? What will she think? She'll be thrilled, Ethan said. She's been asking when you're moving in since the second time you stayed for dinner. This is crazy, Lena said. Probably, Ethan agreed. But I'm tired of being careful. I'm tired of pretending this is casual when it's not. I'm tired of watching you leave every night when I want you to stay. So I'm asking, move in with me. Not because you need rescuing, but because I need you here. Lena looked around the beautiful house that was so different from anywhere she'd ever lived. She thought about her apartment with its stains and broken things. She thought about her mother in the hospital and Sophie asleep upstairs and Ethan looking at her like she was something precious. Okay, she said, but I pay rent. Lena, I'm serious. I need to contribute. I need to feel like I'm not just living off your charity. Fine, Ethan said. You can pay rent. Whatever makes you comfortable. And I get to keep my independence. I'm not becoming some kept woman who asked permission to leave the house. I would never want that, Ethan said. And if this doesn't work out, you can't use the fact that I lived here against me. It's going to work out, Ethan said. You don't know that. I do, Ethan said. Because I'm not going anywhere, and I don't think you are either. Lena wanted to argue, but she was too tired and too scared and too in love to fight anymore. Okay, she said again, let's try. Her mother's surgery went well. Better than expected, the doctors said. She'd need rehabilitation and ongoing treatment, but the prognosis was good. Lena cried in the hospital hallway, all the fear she'd been holding finally released. Ethan held her while she fell apart, and for once, Lena didn't feel weak for needing someone. When her mother was awake and coherent, Lena told her about Ethan, about moving in, about the job. You love him? Her mother said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Lena admitted. And he loves you? He says he does. Then what's the problem? He's a billionaire, Mom. We're from completely different worlds. So? Her mother said. Your father was a mechanic and I was a teacher's assistant. Different worlds. We made it work for 23 years until his heart gave out. Stop looking for reasons it won't work and start looking for reasons it will. What if I'm not enough for him? Lena asked quietly. What if you are? Her mother countered. What if you're exactly what he needs and you're too scared to believe it? Lena didn't have an answer for that. Moving into Ethan's house was surreal. Lena brought her few possessions, mostly clothes and books, and they barely filled one corner of the guest room Ethan insisted she use as her own space. You need somewhere that's just yours, he said. Somewhere you can go when you need to be alone. Sophie helped Lena unpack, chattering excitedly about how they could have breakfast together every morning now and how Lena could read her stories every night if she wanted. You're not my mom, Sophie said seriously as they hung up clothes. I know that, but you're something good. You're something good too, Lena said, her throat tight. The first week was an adjustment. Lena kept waiting for the other shoe to drop for Ethan to realize this was a mistake, but he just came home from work every day, helped Sophie with homework, made dinner with Lena, and acted like having her there was the most natural thing in the world. On New Year's Eve, they stayed home. Sophie fell asleep on the couch before midnight, and Lena and Ethan sat on the back porch despite the cold, watching the city lights. I start the new job in 2 days, Lena said. I'm terrified. You'll be great, Ethan said. You have to say that. I mean it. You care about the work. That's more important than experience or credentials. The people there are going to know I'm with you, Lena said. They're going to think I slept my way into the job. Let them think whatever they want. You'll prove them wrong. You have a lot of faith in me, Lena said. More than you have in yourself, apparently. Lena leaned against him. This is the part where I'm supposed to say something profound about new beginnings, isn't it? Only if you want to, Ethan said. I don't believe in new beginnings, Lena said. I think we're all just the sum of everything that came before, trying to build something better on a broken foundation. That's pretty profound, Ethan said. Yeah, well, I've had a weird year. Me too, Ethan said quietly. At midnight, fireworks exploded over the city. Lena kissed Ethan and thought about how a year ago she'd been alone in her apartment, struggling to make rent, wondering if things would ever get better. She still didn't have all the answers. She was still scared, still worried this would fall apart, still felt out of place in this beautiful house with this man and his daughter. But for the first time in years, she had hope. The job at Coal International was exactly as hard as Lena expected. The work itself was manageable, coordinating partnerships, managing volunteers, tracking donations. But the office politics were brutal. People whispered when she walked by. A few were outright hostile. One woman in accounting made a point of asking Lena loudly at a staff meeting how she'd gotten so lucky to land such a great position with no relevant experience. I worked the charity drive, Lena said evenly, and I interviewed for the position like everyone else. I'm sure you did, the woman said with a smile that wasn't friendly. Lena wanted to quit every day for the first month, but she didn't. Partly out of spite, partly because she refused to prove the whispers right, mostly because she actually cared about the work. She visited the shelters and community centers that received Coal International's donations. She met families struggling exactly like she'd struggled. She organized volunteer events and saw the difference they made. And slowly, grudgingly, people started to respect her. Not all of them, but enough that work became tolerable, then actually good. 6 months in, Patricia called Lena into her office. I'm promoting you, she said. Head of Community Partnerships. It comes with a raise and more responsibility. You've earned it. Does Ethan know? Lena asked immediately. Not yet, Patricia said. This is my decision, not his. You've done excellent work. The partnerships you've built are bringing in more donations than we've seen in years. This is based on merit, not favoritism. Lena allowed herself to feel proud. Thank you. Just keep doing what you're doing, Patricia said, and ignore the gossip. People will always talk. Your work speaks louder. That night, Lena came home to find Ethan making dinner while Sophie set the table. It was such a normal scene now, so different from those early days of awkwardness and uncertainty. I got a promotion, she announced. Sophie cheered. Ethan smiled and pulled her into a hug. I'm proud of you, he said. I earned it, Lena said, needing him to know. I never doubted it, Ethan said. After dinner, after Sophie went to bed, Lena and Ethan sat in their spot on the back porch. A year ago, I was serving appetizers at a party in your building, Lena said, and now I'm here. Sometimes I still can't believe it. Do you miss it? Ethan asked. Your old life? Parts of it, Lena admitted. The simplicity, maybe. Not worrying about office politics or whether people thought I deserved my job. But mostly, no. Mostly, I'm just glad I'm not drowning anymore. You were never drowning, Ethan said. You were swimming. It's different. Semantics, Lena said. Important semantics, Ethan corrected. Drowning implies helplessness. You were never helpless. You were surviving against impossible odds. There's strength in that. Lena thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, desperate, tired, hopeless. She thought about all the people still living that way, still struggling with broken shoes and empty bank accounts and the crushing weight of poverty. I want to do more, she said suddenly. The donation drives are good, but they're not enough. I want to create programs that actually help people escape poverty, not just survive it. Like what? Ethan asked. Job training, childcare assistance, transportation vouchers so people can actually get to interviews, housing deposits, the things that make the difference between staying poor and getting out. Lena's words came faster as the ideas formed. We have the resources. We could actually change lives instead of just putting band-aids on systemic problems. Pitch it to the board, Ethan said. They'll never go for it. It's too expensive, too risky. Pitch it anyway, Ethan said. If anyone can convince them, it's you. So she did. She spent 2 months developing the proposal, creating budgets, researching similar programs. She practiced her presentation until she could deliver it in her sleep. The board meeting was terrifying. 15 people in expensive suits, looking at her with varying degrees of skepticism. Richard Ashford, the board member from the gala, looked openly hostile. Lena presented her plan, talked about impact and sustainability and return on investment, not just in money, but in lives changed. She showed them data, told them stories, made them see the people behind the statistics. When she finished, there was silence. "It's too idealistic," Richard said. "This isn't a charity, it's a business. We can't throw money at social problems and hope they fix themselves." "I'm not asking you to throw money," Lena said. "I'm asking you to invest in people, the same way you invest in technology or infrastructure. People are the best investment a company can make." "And if it fails," Richard challenged. "Then we learn from it and try again," Lena said. "But doing nothing because we're afraid of failure isn't leadership. It's cowardice." She regretted the words as soon as they left her mouth. "You didn't call board members cowards." But Richard laughed. Actually laughed. "She's got spine," he said to Ethan. "I'll give her that." The board approved a pilot program. Smaller than Lena wanted, but it was a start. Walking out of that meeting, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not hope, exactly. More like purpose. Like maybe her struggles hadn't been meaningless. Maybe she could use what she'd learned to help others. A year and a half after that first car ride, Lena and Ethan got married. It was a small ceremony, just family and close friends. Sophie was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously. Lena's mother cried through the entire thing. They didn't have a fancy reception at a hotel ballroom. Instead, they held it at one of the community centers Lena's program supported. The same place where Lena had once served meals to struggling families, now filled with people celebrating her happiness. "This is perfect," Lena said to Ethan during their first dance. "Yeah," he asked. "Yeah, because it's real. It's us." "We're pretty good together," Ethan agreed. "We're a disaster," Lena corrected, "but we're a disaster that works." Sophie cut in on their dance, demanding her turn with both of them. They danced together, the three of them, while people cheered. Later, when the party was winding down, Lena found herself talking to a young woman who'd come through her job training program. The woman had just gotten her first real paycheck from a new job. "I wanted to thank you," the woman said. 6 months ago, I was sleeping in my car with my kid. Now I have an apartment, a job, a future, because of what you built." Lena felt tears prick her eyes. "You did the work. I just opened a door." "Sometimes that's all people need," the woman said. "Someone to open a door." After she walked away, Ethan found Lena wiping her eyes. "Happy tears?" he asked. "Yeah," Lena said. I keep thinking about who I was when we met, how desperate I was, how hopeless. And now I get to help other people feel less hopeless. It's everything," Ethan finished. "Yeah," Lena agreed. They stood together, watching people laugh and dance and celebrate, and Lena thought about the strange path that had led her here. The broken heels and missed buses, the desperate rides home, the slow building of trust with a man who'd hidden who he was so she could show who she was. It hadn't been easy. There had been fights and doubts and moments where Lena had been certain it would all fall apart. There were still hard days, still moments when she felt out of place in Ethan's world. Still people who whispered that she'd gotten lucky, that she didn't deserve what she had. But she'd learned something important. Worthiness wasn't something other people could grant or take away. It was something you claimed for yourself. She'd been worthy when she was broke and sleeping on a couch. She was worthy now, living in a mansion. The circumstances had changed, but her value hadn't. And maybe that was the real lesson. That people weren't defined by their bank accounts or their addresses or their job titles. They were defined by how they treated others, how they showed up when things got hard, whether they used their circumstances as an excuse to be cruel or as a reason to be kind. Lena had spent years being invisible to people like Ethan. And Ethan had spent years being invisible to himself, buried under wealth and expectations and loneliness. They'd found each other because neither of them was looking for what they were supposed to want. Ethan hadn't wanted a trophy wife from his social circle. Lena hadn't wanted a rich savior to rescue her. They'd just wanted to be seen, really seen, for who they were underneath everything else. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked. "How we almost didn't happen," Lena said. How many times I almost walked away. But you didn't, Ethan said. No, Lena agreed. I didn't. Why not? Lena thought about it. Because you kept showing up, even when it was hard, even when I pushed you away. You just kept showing up. Well, Ethan said, pulling her close, that's what you do when you love someone. You show up. Sophie ran over, grabbing both their hands. Come on, she said. They're cutting the cake and I want the first piece. They followed her back to the party, this makeshift family that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. Lena looked back once at the woman who'd thanked her, now dancing with her daughter, both of them laughing. That could have been Lena's story. Drowning instead of swimming, lost instead of found. But she'd gotten lucky. Not because a billionaire had picked her up in his car, though that had certainly helped. Lucky because when the moment came to choose fear or hope, she'd chosen hope. Barely, reluctantly, terrified the whole way. But she'd chosen it, and that choice had made all the difference. The cake was chocolate, Sophie's favorite. As they cut into it together, cameras flashing, people cheering, Lena realized something. This wasn't a fairy tale ending where the poor girl became a princess and lived happily ever after in a castle. This was something better. This was two imperfect people choosing each other every day, building a life that honored both their worlds instead of abandoning one for the other, using their combined resources, his money, her experience, their shared capacity for caring, to actually make things better for people who needed it. Sophie got frosting on her nose. Ethan laughed. Lena's mother took photos with a disposable camera because she didn't trust her phone. And Lena stood in the middle of it all, no longer invisible, no longer drowning, no longer afraid that letting people in would destroy her. Just loved, and loving back. And learning that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let yourself be happy, even when you've spent years believing you don't deserve it. Because maybe in the end, everyone deserves a chance at happiness. Not just the wealthy or the beautiful or the ones who were born lucky. Everyone. Including tired waitresses with broken shoes and broken dreams. Especially them. The party lasted until midnight. When everyone finally left, Lena and Ethan and Sophie went home together, to the house that was now theirs, all three of them. Sophie fell asleep in the car. Ethan carried her upstairs while Lena locked up. Later, lying in bed, Ethan asked, "Any regrets? About today? No. About any of it? The whole last 2 years?" Lena thought about the question honestly, about the struggles and the fear and the times she'd wanted to run, about the gossip and the doubts and the fundamental inequality that still existed between them. "No," she said finally. "No regrets. Just gratitude that we were both brave enough to try. Even though it was terrifying, especially because it was terrifying," Lena said, "the things worth having usually are." Ethan kissed her forehead. "I love you." "I love you too," Lena said, "even though you're a billionaire and I'm still figuring out how to work the fancy coffee maker." "You'll get there," Ethan said. "Maybe," Lena said, "or maybe I'll just keep making you do it." They fell asleep like that, tangled together, two people from different worlds who'd somehow built a bridge between them. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was real, and honest, and theirs. And sometimes that was enough.